We're going to welcome our visitors and our guests. How many folks we got the first timers here? We're going to introduce Dr. Frank Howell. Come on up here and let him take the he's going to give you an update. Next programming is and introduce our guest speakers for the night.
Thanks, Mike. Listen, it's a real pleasure to be here with you tonight. I'm glad we've got this turnout. Sometimes January is a cold and dreary month. And tonight, the focus of our programming is on emergency response and using emergency communications. And this is not just another little kind of sort of drab review of here's what you need to have, and that's important. But what's also important, and I think if anybody learned this, in 1969, Mississippians learned it with what hurricane? Camille in 1969. We relearned it, as the British say, what did we learn with a T? We relearned it with Katrina. And it's the organizations that really help you respond as much as anything. And one key part of the organization is the ability to communicate. We saw a lot of organizations have to stand down effectively because they couldn't communicate. And we certainly pride ourselves with the central Mississippi area, and I think Rankin County has done probably competitively as good a job in the state. Folks are getting fistfights over using that term, but you understand my point. They're certainly up there amongst them. Well, tonight we've got three representatives who are going to talk to us about emergency response and emergency communication. Now, when I got the text from Dana that said, well, there's been a little bit of confusion over the schedule, and the 4-H program is running a little long, and we won't get the room till 7:30. Dana, what was my response?
Okay.
No, what was my response? What came after the okay? Well, I guess that tells you whose room it is. Now, the reason for that is, and I don't want it lost on us, we meet in a conference facility that is owned by the Mississippi State University Extension Service. And I happen to be married to somebody who retired from that service as a second-level administrator. And so I know very, very well that people like our representative here tonight, as much as he wants to get back home to his own home and bed, he's out here when he didn't have to be. And he's going to be talking to us about what the Extension Service does in emergency response and their interest in emergency communications. How many of you have taken an ICS course? The gentleman from the Extension Service works for Homeland Security and teaches many of those and directs the teaching of many of those. So one of the things I wanted to bring together was maybe another organization that we hams may not be as aware of as we could be. So we've got Mr. Tom Ball from Mississippi State Extension Service, and he'll be our first speaker tonight. Told him we would do that because I know how much it means to get back home to your own bed, even though as Extension Service will say, we don't work for the hour, we work by the day and the week. Okay, our other speaker, when you start, now that's a statewide obligation. Our other speaker will be our district official, and that's Robert Hayes sitting here in the back, who is our district emergency coordinator for several counties in this particular area. Malcolm was invited and was not in position to be here. Rez teaches his fencing courses on Tuesday nights, and so the second person couldn't be here. And then thirdly, we also meet in a facility that is jointly held with the Extension Service and the local Emergency Operations Center with an EMA director. And I understand that he is not here yet, and he's got someone here from his staff that will be Brian Grantham. Good. So we've got a statewide organization that maybe we don't know as much as we need to know about, and they've got interest in what we do. We've got our district level official who's going to talk about things from that district level and how he's been organizing things, and we've got a local EMA person who's going to talk about what they do surrounding this facility in Rankin County. So our first speaker is Tom Ball. Now, I've had the pleasure of knowing Tom, and he's had to put up with me as a good friend, and he actually endured one of my classes one semester in GIS. So Tom has a wide-ranging background. In my view, he's the best editor Starkville Daily News ever had. He's won awards in journalism and in the news business, and still is involved in those arenas. Working with the Extension Service, he brings those things to bear because they do it all. They deal with everything. And so without any further ado, I want to give you Tom Ball. He'll come up and make sure your mic's on, and he's going to talk to us about what he does.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you, Dr. Howell. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you, and on behalf of our director, Gary Jackson, I would emphatically tell you that this is your room, and you let him look after it for you. We are in service to the constituency groups of all 82 counties. That is what Extension is. It's what it always has been, and it's what we follow that direction into the future will always be. It is of service and involvement with organizations just exactly like this. As Dr. Howell said, my name is Tom Ball, and I'm with the Center for Government and Community Development in the Mississippi State Extension Service. And we have been involved in emergency management since Y2K. Who here remembers when the world was going to come to an end, when all of those zeros popped up? Well, we worked with the Department of Public Safety and certainly the Emergency Management Agency and all the other state and federal and local. We tried to do things to have adequate preparation just in case whatever would happen did occur, and that we would be able to respond appropriately. Thank goodness all of us purchased the right computers, or something happened positively that we didn't see any cataclysmic events. But that just gives you a background. We have been doing things with emergency management, and then after individuals started flying airplanes into buildings, working with Homeland Security. It has been an honor and a privilege to work with the state of Mississippi, and I can promise you that I bring congratulations for your efforts from Rusty Barnes, the director of the Office of Homeland Security, Commissioner Santa Cruz in Public Safety, and most assuredly Director Robert Latham from the Emergency Management Agency. Your role, your involvement, your desire to serve is needed and much appreciated, I promise you. In our roles in working with local emergency managers, and we also work with supervisors, mayors, aldermen, council, tax collectors. We work with just about every elected and appointed constituency group at the local level. That's what Extension does. We try to get out in the field and work with those people that are boots on the ground, the folks that have got the ox in the ditch, or the people that are looking for best practices to improve their lives. What we're doing, and what we have done since 2002, is work with the 82 local county emergency managers. And I know everyone in here knows their county emergency manager, right? Everybody knows that emergency manager is your lifeline. He has, she has, on her office desk, a computer with a hard drive disk, or has a hard copy binder of a county emergency management plan. I'm not going to say all 82. I'm not going to say, you never say always and you never say never, but I have yet to find a local comprehensive emergency management plan that does not include amateur radio, hams, the ARL, races, whomever. You're the last line of defense. You're the best hope that any of us have for communication. Yes, worked Katrina. Yes, I went down to the coast and I did things, not anything in the comparison to, I'm sure, many of you and many Mississippians that efforted on behalf of those that were most impacted by that storm. But the thing that we all remember is that picture of the people standing on the Bay St. Louis Bridge, and they're holding their cell phones, trying to get that signal, trying to find that one that powerful tower that could carry their message, and 99% of them were ineffective. Butch Loper from Jackson County, the emergency manager then, depended on the lifeline of the ham connection that he had stationed in his emergency operations center. Brian Hootie Adam in Hancock County depended upon the messages that his ham, that his amateur radio operator could get out. We didn't have very sophisticated means of communication, but we surely did have effective means of communication because of the efforts of some of you and those just like you on the coast. In times of emergencies, hams have always been there. They are a part of emergency management in Mississippi and in the United States. No matter how sophisticated we get with multi-million-dollar radio facilities, you are always going to be the backstop. You are always going to be important. You always should be involved in exercises. I come to you today after having spent 2 days on the coast doing an exercise with Harrison, Jackson, Stone, and Perry County, where there was a train derailment with some catastrophic events involving tank cars with ethyl methyl bad stuff, and the end result was that we needed to improve communication. Since 2000, our records, and I'm amazed every time that I say this record exists, we have trained more than 20,000 Mississippians at some level in the National Incident Management System's Incident Command System, whether it be 700, 100, 200, 300 for those that are operating in an EOC, or even 400, those that are directing and helping guide the construction of instant action plans and long-range strategic goals. We enjoy doing this because we have never come across a class where there weren't eager learners. Sometimes you're selling something that people don't want to buy, but in the instance of instant command system training, very seldom do we find people that have been voluntold to participate. They're there of their own free will. And I can tell you this, that then Director Paulson of the Federal Emergency Management Agency said when he came through on September 5th, he was on WAPT, and he said if we had not had the training in the instant command system, that Louisiana would have been nothing to what would have occurred in Mississippi, because our devastation was so immense and so total that the training that we had for our first responders made it possible for us to stand and walk and then run and in the recovery process. And we enjoy doing the instant command system training. We train at all levels. We train the county emergency operations center in their operations, as well as their interface with the instant command on scene. We train the emergency operations center for their contact with the state Emergency Operations Center, the SEOC that's, I guess, 3 miles to the west of us at MEMA. We train all of the people. We have coordinated and conducted exercises and involved the hams in the Strategic National Stockpile delivery, receipt, and distribution. And I can promise you that ham radios are a vital part of the emergency management plan of the Mississippi State Department of Health. And I would tell you that Mary Courier, were she here tonight, your state health officer would tell the importance of those hams being, Mike, is it tested every first Saturday of the month? Is that when the test goes? I'm trying to remember now. But the Sentinel hospitals throughout the state, they have a regular testing program for the amateur radio. And it is in the emergency department of those 18 hospitals that are those centers of excellence. You are critical. I'm not telling you anything that you don't know. I'm not going to stand up here and try to bore you and get your attention by saying that what you're doing is great, as important as it is. I will tell you this. Please be encouraged to go forward with your efforts. Those emergency managers in those 82 counties have a myriad of responsibilities, from sheltering those in the time of crisis, or looking after those with the aid of the health department for mass care, those that were injured in natural or man-created disasters. They have animal concerns. They have transportation. They have, there are, in the state of Mississippi now, 16 emergency support functions, of which your extension service is in support of ESF 11, animal health, natural resources, and historic icon preservation, and the mass care in support of the Mississippi State Department of Health, and the sheltering program with the Mississippi Department of Human Services. We enjoy doing that, but the joy comes from a team effort of efficiency and effectiveness that is provided by dependable communications. I'm not going to talk about any radio brands or anything. Those have their place. The system that the state of Mississippi has is the envy of many. Is it perfect? No communication system is ever perfect. That's why you have triple redundancy. And y'all are a part of that redundancy. Yes, it's good. Yes, it is dependable. Yes, they have as many safeguards as they can build in, and they are continuing to upgrade and improve that. I would tell you that the Wireless Commission is doing an admirable job. Please take time to become familiar with your county emergency management plan. I don't know that all are online, but many are. Read about the emergency plans that are available for those institutions that are in your area. They do not have to just be hospitals. They can certainly be school districts or other major employers or even utilities. And the state highway department has an annex that deals with communication and amateur. You are involved and written in. Please don't let those words become hollow because of inaction. It is important. Our lives are depending on the continued effort of what you do each and every day. The Extension Service is here to help you. We can provide, with the gracious support from the Department of Public Safety, the Emergency Management Agency, and the Office of Homeland Security. We can provide training in 700, which is a broad overview, and it's a morning or an afternoon class. 100 is, I think, an 8 or a 10-hour class. 200 is a 12 to 14-hour class, certainly doable on a Friday night and maybe a Saturday, Sunday type of situation. We can come. We don't have to conform to any schedule that is inconvenient for you. There is incident management team training, and whether it be a hospital, whether it be a county, whether it be a neighborhood, however you want to organize that as a part of that county comprehensive emergency management plan for response, we are glad to do that and work with position training. There is an overall command and general staff training that is an overview that is very similar to ICS 300 and 400. We teach that in all 82 counties and go about working with the emergency managers, because we are all adults and we all know what the federal government is doing and not doing. They can only do so much. In the future, the things that are coming out of the Office of Management and Budget, the circulars that are describing the long-term aid, the response and recovery efforts that FEMA will be able to provide in the future, are going to be limited, and they're going to depend on what the county and the municipalities do as far as buying insurance for those infrastructure and other improvements, what they do as far as readiness, and what they do as far as preparation. So that just signals to me that as things go forward, it's going to be more on us in emergency management. We're going to have to do more with fewer dollars that come down from Washington. There will be no more billions of dollars coming as did follow Katrina, I fear. That's nothing in stone, but that's the way it looks to me. So it's going to depend on what each and every one of you can do. And we want to make sure that readiness and whole community preparedness are at the foundation level of every county response. What we can do is involve ourselves in exercises. Was there someone there today from all 4 counties that was amateur radio? I do not know. I haven't looked at the roster. I do know there was representation there, but I don't know if there was one from every county. Well, it could be, and it should be, and we need to make that kind of effort. And it's got to be a partnership. Nobody's trying to put you out on the tip of the spear. We want to hold hands as we go forward together, because the benefits are there, and they are immense. We've got opportunities to be better than other states. Mississippi does not hold the record of being 50th in emergency management today. We are the envy of a great many of our fellow states, but there's certainly room for improvement. There are things that we can do differently. The Extension Service, as I said, works with other emergency support functions. We have a damage assessment team. We primarily work in assessing agricultural damage. We have trained damage assessment specialists that help develop numbers for the USDA Farm Services Agency when they calculate production losses and things of that nature due to natural or man-made disasters. We have early childhood development specialists and teams, strike teams that work with shelters, and this was especially true after Katrina, because in the long-term recovery effort, those mothers and fathers of those children couldn't go out there and help start rebuilding their life, their retail economy, their neighborhoods without someone there to look after the children that were involved. So it's a multifaceted approach. The homemakers, even the master gardeners work with infrastructure protection and ways to help safeguard buildings and other properties. It's a multi-pronged approach that we have. We work we're especially well suited to work with long-term recovery. But on the response side, there are a great many things that we do and a great many of things that we do that are on similar tracks to what the expertise level that y'all all possess. I would be glad to tell you anything else. I would be glad to answer any questions. Our training comes without cost to you. We would not mind if someone in the group knew somebody that could buy some hot dogs and hamburgers or something of that nature that would allow the training to be continuous as we go through those weekends or nights. But we're glad to work with your schedules and do those things that it does take to allow you to get the training that you're desiring. I appreciate what you do each and every day. I appreciate what you have done in times of emergency in the past. But let me tell you right now, on behalf of the Extension Service, our administration, all of us, thank you for what you will do in the future when called on an emergency.
Listen, Tom, let's give him a round of applause here. Robert, if you would come up and kind of get mic'd up, I want to make a few comments. Robert, if you come up. What I think you're seeing, as Tom has told you about the Extension Service, does it sound familiar? Who is also in all 82 counties besides the Extension Service? Who's also out there wanting to come, hey, where can I serve? You see there's a symbiosis between the Extension Service and amateur radio. And that's something I'm delighted that both of you are here, because I think what you're hearing Tom say is they also work with Homeland Security. They also do many of these things that we try to do. And so I wanted to point out from our district emergency coordinator through our organization, American Radio Relay League Aries program, the symmetry between the Extension Service and what we do. And Robert, what I would suggest you might pick up with is how what we may fail at times, they excel at, and that is organization. This man does a monthly plan of work. Those are terrible words at some times of the week or month for an extension person, that plan of work. It's like that thing handing over you. They organize it as much as anybody I've seen, and they can account for about every minute on the job. And I'm not saying we're bad at it, but we're not good at it. And so let's kind of make that segue, and Tom's going to hang around a little while, but I'm going to tell him that when he feels like he needs to have a foot on the pedal and head north, we'll let him ease out. Robert Hayes, our District Emergency Coordinator.
Good evening, everybody. Tom, that was a great talk. We're glad you came out tonight. Can everybody hear me? Robert Hayes, KC5IMN, Kilo Charlie 5, India Mike November. It's a really hard call sign if you're on HF. I'm sorry. I'm not changing it. I've had it for 22 years now. Appreciate the opportunity to get up here and talk tonight, Mike, and I appreciate you thinking of me at the last minute. I'm going to tell you tonight about where we are in Aries. I do want to start off by thanking Jim Coker in the back. Wave your hand, Jim. Jim has put in several good years for us as an EC, and we're going to miss you, but don't think you're getting away from me, sir. I still need your help in doing the stuff that you do, hanging antennas and working nets for us. So anyway, Amateur Radio Emergency Services for West Central Mississippi, the district that lines up with the Mississippi Highway Patrol. I'm that guy I'm kind of the facilitator for the ECs. We don't have too many emergency emergency coordinators right now, so I need your help. I'll start out tonight by saying I really, really need your help. If you're interested in helping Aries, we'd love to talk to you. There's links on the Rankin CMSARA site on how you get into that. And if you get into that, we're going to drag you kicking and streaming up the food chain a little bit. We'd love for everybody to be a general or better, but if you get to be a general, you get to play on HF for the rest of us. It's okay if you're a technician, because I did that for 10 years. But when you get into the HF world and you get in there and play, it's a lot of fun. If something really breaks loose in Mississippi and there's an issue with communications, you can bet that HF is going to be the backbone of a lot of what's going on. And if the intertie is up and running 100%, which we pray that it is, and then anything running adjacent to the major interstates that crisscross our state should be covered. I'll give you a little bit of a background on myself. I'm a retired cop out of Texas. That's why I don't sound like I'm from Mississippi. Forgive me for that. But everybody's been very cordial. I've been to Mississippi for 6 years now. I work for a defense contractor called L3 Communications, Vertex Aerospace. We do work on military aircraft. And I'm the director of security for that organization. We have worldwide operations, about 7,000 people out of the Mississippi office and about 22,000 worldwide for our part of L3. We're the 10th largest defense contractor in the world. In 1994, I was about 9 years into law enforcement in Tyler, Texas, and I finally figured out how to pass the code, and I got my test, and like 2 weeks later, they did away with the code for technician. So that was just the way it was, and it was very difficult for me because the guy, the old-timer, my mentor, who was actually my testing advocate, he failed me the first couple of times I did it. And I had to come back, a couple of weeks in a row to get it going on there. But I got it, and then they did away with it, and that's fine. And I've had about that many CW conversations. Not that I might not ever try that, but I'm really more interested in digital right now. For me, what Aries needs from you first is manpower. People that are willing to just maybe stay at home and help pass traffic. And I heard the net lady earlier tonight talking about we're going to start working, at least on the Rankin County nets, and we're going to start working on some traffic handling. And that's a big deal because you could be like me. I was an EC in Texas, and my second week as an appointed EC with really no training, I got on this really scary HF net, and there was like a solar disturbance or something that night. And man, everybody could hear me and nobody else. And the guy who was running the net out of Houston, Texas said, "Robert, you're the man, run the net." So in Texas is like 300 counties, and it's like the Mississippi phone net for Texas. They call it the Texas Traffic Net. It was a fiasco. I got everybody checked in. I don't know how much traffic I got moved around. And then when Malcolm figured out who I was, he kind of dragged me kicking and streaming into Aries here. The first or second time I checked into MSPN, he heard me on there and he said, "Oh, Robert, I got some traffic from Madison County. I know you can take it." And I did. And I messed it up a little bit, but we got it right. So you got to practice that stuff because it's all fine right now when there's not a disaster or emergency going on. But if something's really going on, we need to have practiced that so it flows with you. I've actually got a cheapy laptop that I got for $50 off eBay, and I've got Excel on there, and I'll do the typing version of that now. And don't be afraid to record that message on your trusty dusty cell phone so you can go back and make sure you got that right too, because a lot of us forget that our cell phones have some really cool recording devices, right? So if I can get the ECs we need in each county in central Mississippi, which some of them don't even have a licensed amateur radio operator, is that right, Jim? We may have one or two in one of the counties. So we're struggling with that, and it doesn't mean that you have to live in the county that you support, but you do have to find that emergency management agency manager for the county and interface with those folks, and then you have to interface with local law enforcement. If there's another served agency like a hospital that's part of the network, you'd want to be part of that. And the big thing for me is just, I'm a political guy. I used to be a techie guy, and then I got into this other job, and now I'm more of a political guy. I shake hands and fire people. So I've had to learn how to talk to people and keep them from getting really mad when I'm walking them out the door. So in the Aries capacity, that would be interfacing and maybe not firing the sheriff after I talk to him and tell him how much I really want to have our organization work for him. And when I go talk to the sheriff or the EMA folks, or we're getting ready to get interfaced with NEMA, I understand they have a new director who actually lives in Madison County now. So I intend to find him and take him out for a cup of coffee. I promise you I won't fire him until after we've had a chance. I'm the security guy where I work, so if they got to fire somebody, they come get me. And when I show up in a coat and tie, usually I have a nice polo shirt or something like that on. When I wear a coat and tie to work, people get worried somebody's getting fired. Today, this is all I had, so I had 3 people say, "Who's getting fired today, boss?" So nobody's getting fired. I knew I was going to come talk to you, that's why. At my office, we're working on an MOU with the Madison County Sheriff's Department. By the way, my office is in Vertex Aerospace, is adjacent to Levi Strauss, just south of where Nissan is off 55. And we've actually just put up an HF station, and we're about to have a VHF, UHF station. And don't everybody scream at one time, but we just got delivered last week a Yaesu FTM 100DR. Booyah. So we're going to have the Yaesu fusion system now, which I think is a big thing. Shake your head, yes, Mike, that's what we were looking for. And so yesterday I did trick the EMA guy, EMA director for Madison County, to come look at our stuff, and he invited us back to their new facility, which they haven't cranked up the dispatch part of it yet, Frank, but they promised me they'll let you and I go in and pick out what we want to do. But the cool thing was, he's like, "Robert, we're kicking off, we've got a new digital radio system for Madison County proper. The city of Madison and Ridgeland are on MS-WIN, but Madison County's been on VHF for a while. They're going digital VHF, or they've already gone. And it's not something you can copy on the scanner anymore without, it's the ICOM version of DMR. But what you might not know is that Madison County's actually taken a step backwards, and they've grabbed all the old low-band radios and installed them in all their patrol cars, and they're using their low-band system again, and they're fixing to put up a low-band repeater, my understanding is, and they want to put some of that stuff at our facility, and they're going to designate us as an off-site EOC for Madison County. Hoorah. So that means I'll have cops and EMA people coming out of my facility all the time, which is a positive for me. So we're going to have, we've got the VHF, UHF antenna today. I've got a full wave 80-meter loop on the roof, and we have an operational HF system there, and I can check in so the 40 and 80-meter nets any time of day. It will tune on 60 meters, which I find 60 meters night or day works really well on HF. How many of you do any 60-meter work? You need to try it. If you don't do that, get on one of those channels. 100 watts is great. When I check into the Texas traffic net during the day, they know the guy from Jackson, Mississippi now, because it sounds like we're running 1,000 watts with that antenna on the metal roof. So we're getting good reports out of that. My vision for the future is organization. We'd love to have the Extension Service show us how we could better organize if that's possible. But also, we have to have help. We have to have people stand up and say, I want to be a part of ARES. You don't have to be a member of the ARRL to be a part of ARES, unless you're an appointed person in the EC position, and then the ARRL does want you to pay that yearly dues, which is kind of a small price to pay to get all that extra training and all that extra responsibility for no extra pay, right? But that's okay. That's what we do. I hope this year that I can spend more time on ARES for West Central. Mike, I'm planning on being in town for a field day. I've warned my wife not to send me to any kids camps this year. This year we were at a kids camp at Pelahatchie, and I had to sneak away and come up and hang out during field day, but I should be able to help with that. I'll be available also for the our version of Hamcom, I like to call it, here in Mississippi at the end of this month. And I intend to buy a radio. I hope I'm going to go find one of the new Yaesu handhelds. I hope. I kind of talked my wife into that. I got a really nice present for Christmas, and she's going to kind of owe me. You do that, right, guys? You buy your wife a really nice present for Christmas that she wasn't expecting, knowing that the Mississippi ham radio show's coming, and you spend $300 or $400 on her, and she's like, well, honey, I only get you something for $20. And I'm like, well, honey, no, next month we can go to the ham show, right? She's like, no, but I've already got I'm ready. So I need help. I need to find that techie guy who's also administrative guy. I've drafted Jim in the back, but I need somebody that's not afraid to write emails, and Frank helps me too. But as the year goes on, you're going to kind of see me expand operations. Of course, I lean on Rankin County because you folks are the model for the state of Mississippi for me. You're certainly the model for the folks in my district. But we want to get bigger and better and smarter, and even if we don't have a lot of people, we want to be able to offer our services to the served agencies and have them, when they think of us, that they go, yeah, amateur radio, the last line of defense, and those guys will work and they can get the message through maybe when no one else can. So I'll take a deep breath. Anybody got any questions about West Central Aries? Thanks for letting me run my head for a second.
Let's give Robert a round of applause. And okay, so we're going to turn this over to our next speaker, and without further ado, we're going to talk about Rankin County EMA and the EOC operations.
Thank you very much. My name is Brian Grantham. I am the EMS coordinator here for Rankin County. I'm over all the medical side of the fire departments that you see out there. We're also in control of the EMS contract, which is currently held by American Medical Response, which is coming up at the end of the year to renegotiate that. But I just wanted to say I'm very impressed with what you men and women do. I have this much knowledge of what y'all do. At one time I had somebody very early on in my career, which has only been about 13 years or so with the fire and law enforcement side of it. They said, if you can get me a rope and a box, I'm going to throw this rope and box up over a tree limb, and pretty soon I can have you talking back and forth to somebody. And sounds great to me. You know, I'm on the operations side of it, so you know, we definitely need someone to be able to talk to on the other end, or we pretty much pointless. So thank you for what you do. Echo what Mr. Tom Ball said. As a matter of fact, I've actually had him teach in a few of the incident command classes, and those are really good too. I know some of you, I've known Mr. Robert Arrington here for a very long time, back when I used to work with the Brandon Fire Department. After that, I left and went to the Flowood Fire Department, is where I met Mr. Mike Dancy with the River Oaks side of it. So, and then now I'm with the county doing the emergency management here. I promise I won't be very long at all. I know they've already had to move into testing. I'm going to try to get you home before you miss too much of the State of the Union address, because I know all of y'all are very excited to hear about that. And so just a couple of things that they wanted me to point out to pass on to you. Again, I apologize. Bob Wedgeworth is the director for the EOC here. He was unable to make it. He was booked in 2 places at one time. And until the teleportation device gets developed on the other side over there, he can only do one thing. So he wanted me to be sure to pass on to you that with the new upgrade that we've had here in Rankin County with the radio system, that the all new equipment has been installed at the radio sites. The Jackson Communication is in the process and just about finished with getting out all the old equipment out of the existing radio sites. They also wanted me to pass on that all agencies in Rankin County are on the new system, with the exception of Brandon Fire Department. And there was some discussion back and forth. Originally, when all this was come about, Brandon said they did not want to be on the new system, but as time has gotten closer, they've kind of changed their mind, and they're wanting to be on the new system now, so they've got to work all of that out. The biggest project that they're all working on at this time is the GPS capabilities with the radio system. They installed it. They're working with the Sheriff's Department, are the ones that's going to be using it mainly. They've had a couple of issues with some of the deputies, you know, going home for the evening work, leaving off shift. However, it's still sending a GPS signal. So that can obviously, you see, cause problems whenever a 911 call goes out 4 houses down. The dispatcher looks at the screen and sees, oh, I've got a unit right there, but yet they're not available. So there's some a few tweaks and everything that they're having to work on, and I think they are taking care of that as we speak. So pretty much that's the update that I have for you. I'm going to be around for a little bit after y'all get through or whatnot. If you have any questions, I will try to get you a correct answer. If I can't make up one, then I'll just have to get it back to you, and you can pass it out to anybody that has that. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate you letting me speak, and I look forward to talking with you later.
Thank Thank you very much. Very briefly, we still got audio, Mike. Very briefly, I think all three speakers have touched on ways in which we can relate locally. We relate to our brothers and sisters in terms of our district, and how we can also relate statewide. Old Tip O'Neill said all politics is local. Well, every disaster is certainly local as well. On our Aries group, now Michelle, where's Michelle? Okay, Michelle is the leader, Tom, of our Aries net group. We have more than just Michelle, who is a net control operator, and you may have seen some of those nets and that sort of thing. You can listen to a lot of them on the internet. Many of them are streamed using Broadcastify, is that, or RadioReference.com. One of the things that you may be aware of, but you might not, we drill and practice, we in the collective we, how often? Every day. We have the Mississippi phone net that's on high frequency once a week. And Michelle, how many weeks a year do we not have a net for a real good reason or another? Not many. I mean, okay. So about 50 weeks a year, we have a weekly net. Now then, if you parse it, Todd from JRC has a net weekly. I'm two in a way. So when you look at the metro area of Jackson, we have multiple nets per week, and we're drilling and practicing. And one of the neat things is that when we have fun playing, we're just getting better with learning how to communicate. And part of what the Magnolia Intertie, which is separate from this group, I think one of the latent benefits from that is that hams around the state will get to know one another, because right now we have this annual conference here that the Jackson Club has led and been put on for how long? How long has the Jackson Ham Fest been going on? So it's been several decades. So that's kind of like the annual conference, Tom, for that's that rhythm. And so I think by having a statewide repeater system, we'll get to know one another. And as you well know, that pays off in spades when you got Flanagan. Do you have any thoughts, questions, or observations as kind of the races officer?
Everybody, all these people have spoke about our common cause, and it's just making sure that, like I said, we are the backbone we've gotten away from the when all else fails thing so much, but that's pretty much it. All the things that we do to practice are going to pay off should we be needed. Now, I know everybody's kind of, and I've got some of the same feeling about, since Katrina, all the big agencies have upgraded their stuff to a point to where for them to actually need us on a big scale may or may not happen. But on a local, rural scale, there could be a train wreck somewhere between here and Morton, which would be a major chemical spill, and we'd be some of the first people to get to it. And communications is exactly what we do, and that's what those people need. If we don't do anything but set up and say, hey, we need to try to help turn traffic somewhere, that's not what we like to do, but, should we be needed, but
often some of our people, like Tommy Ayler back there in that tornado that hit Bob Boyd, Honda, I think, Tommy, you were out taking pictures for me because they were busy. And more pedestrian things like that we can do and are authorized to do.
Yeah, we want to move our Races program forward this year. I had promised I was going to do more with that for 2015, and just things just kind of, it got swept under the rug every time we thought we were fixing to do something, but we're going to try to do that to improve our Races effort, and Aries and Races, they go hand in hand, so everybody that signed up, we are in the very near future fixing to update the one call system. If next month maybe I'll try to get a list of who is in attendance that wants their name and number on the one call, and we'll make sure Mike gets it put in the system, and then and y'all will see how that works, and it's a pretty good thing. But just
is that our program for this evening, or?
Yes, pretty much. Appreciate Dr. Howell, for our program director for the club. He's done a wonderful job in the past months and this month and the months to come at making sure that these meetings are not dull and boring like they used to be at one time. Our attendance dropped down to about 10 a month for a long time, and thanks to everybody coming and being a part of what we got. We do want y'all to get out, get signed up on the HamFest roster. We're going, a bunch of us are taking off that Friday. We're going to go over and help them out. We're going to try to figure out where and when exactly. We're going to meet for breakfast over there Friday morning somewhere at the Waffle House. Is that what y'all were thinking? So we ought to be able to load the Waffle House up pretty good. If that's full, the Whataburger, I don't know if y'all have ever had breakfast at the Whataburger, but they can fry a pretty good egg if you talk to them just right. So
let me tell them what the next programs are. Next month, we're going to move from the down low to the sky. We have a presentation on working satellites from the former editor of the AMSAT Journal and his buddy. They live over yonder. If they don't get flooded out, they're going to come over here and talk about working satellites. Now, if you want to get everybody from a little tight to your great-grandpa kind of like going, y'all do that with ham radio? Talk to a satellite in front of them. Anybody can talk to an international space station, deserves at least having a clerical collar of some kind, because you're getting pretty close to really getting up there. So that's our program next month. So let's show up and give them some love here from CMSARA for coming over from Vicksburg. Okay, now in March, we've got Gordon West by Skype. Rusty and Mike and I are going to work on making sure our Skype connection is good. Of input. I want to thank our folks over in Morton. I want to give a shout out from the Intertie. The gentleman sitting back here in the back, Jody, pulled a Mike Flanagan with the Scott County Club and got together the money and donated a repeater for the Intertie, and it's now over south of Newton on a tower owned by John Dees, and CMSARA's donated a repeater. We were able to get money donated to order 7 repeaters at the end of December. I thought Mike was going to have to go in the office on a Saturday to write the checks and get them FedEx to them. So that is much appreciated. If you've got time on Saturday afternoon of the HamFest, from 2 to 5, the Intertie will be meeting at the HamFest, and I think sort of expanding the program. I mean, the JRC's HamFest is gone over the last few years from adding Friday night with DX College to all the way to 5 o'clock on Saturday, and we'll have a door prize there too. So if you want to come learn a little bit more about the Intertie and Backbone, and we'll have Chris Wilson, who will be here at the HamFest. He'll be giving a presentation in our session. So if you want to learn a little bit more about Yaesu System Fusion, you want to make sure that you've got Saturday afternoon. So one little additional bell and whistle thanks to Todd and the JRC HamFest committee. I was able to get Tom Medlin, W5KUB from Collierville, to come down, and he's going to webcast our HamFest live on the internet. And as you know, Tom does a superb job. And I think, that may not help draw a crowd this year, but it will help in the following years. And hopefully we can get Tom to continue to do that. This is his first trip to the HamFest.